Today, inshallah, we will talk about Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, Shaykh al-Islam's position in the Hanbali Madhab, whether in fiqh or aqidah. Fiqh, and fiqh includes usul al-fiqh as well, and aqidah, which is usul al-din. We will talk about this, inshallah. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This will take like 30 minutes, and I will summarize everything about it, about the topic. And then, inshallah, we will be able to receive your questions and answer them. If you have questions, if you have friends who have questions and they are not on Facebook, then please send the questions here in the comments. And if the questions wasn't answered, please repeat it. Sometimes I do not see all the comments, and make sure that you and your friends, when you ask the questions, you ask them here in this live of Al Madrassah Al Hanbaliyyah, not anyone's watch party. There is something that some people do, it's watch party, like they share the same thing when it's live. Make sure that the questions are not sent there. ازيك يا شيخ داني؟ أنا الحمد لله كويس. كيف حالك أنت يا شيخ داني؟ الحمد لله. طيب، بسم الله. شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية هو تقي الدين أحمد بن عبد الحليم بن عبد السلام، شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية الحراني الدمشقي رضي الله عنه. Shaykh Yusuf Ibn Taymiyyah, one of the most important scholars in the Hanbali Madhab. We will talk about his contributions to fiqh. We'll talk about his contributions to the Hanbali fiqh and usul al-fiqh. Also, we will talk about his position in the Hanbali fiqh. We will talk about his position in the Hanbali aqidah. Let's begin with an introduction to how things are organized in the Hanbali Madhab. You have furu' al-din, this is fiqh, and you have usul al-din, this is aqidah. And the Hanbali Madhab is one of the madhab where you have usul and furu' al-din mentioned by the same imam. It's very important to understand that we do not follow anyone when it comes to aqidah. We do not follow anyone when it comes to aqidah. Meaning, we do not follow Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Not because we are called Hanabila, then we follow Ahmad ibn Hanbal in his aqidah. The most important masail of aqidah should be the conclusions or the results of what you reach should be done by your ijtihad, by your nazar. يعني, you look in the Quran, you look in Sunnah, and then you believe. I cannot, for example, trust someone's opinion just because he is a good person. I cannot trust him when he, for example, says Allah exists. Okay, this person, I trust this person, I will just believe in this. You have to believe in Allah's existence all by yourself. You have evidence, even if you cannot express yourself when it comes to the evidences of Allah's existence. Still, you have to believe in this all by yourself. But when we say it's the Hanbali Aqidah, or when I say this is the relied upon position of the Hanbali Aqidah, this means that the majority of Al-Hanabila, including Hanbal sometimes, accepted this opinion and reached this conclusion as their aqidah. Yani they all reached the same conclusion. For instance, we do not get into interpretations when it comes to Allah's attributes. All the Hanabila will agree on this. Everyone who calls himself Hanbali will agree on this. Why? Because he first concluded this thing that Allah's attributes should not be interpreted, then he called himself Hanbali. That's why you will find people who are Shafi'i in fiqh, Hanbali in aqidah. And most of the Hanabila are Hanbali in fiqh and aqidah. So the Hanbali Madhab is of an athari approach to Al-Quran wa Sunnah. This has to be clear. And again, do not think just because we are saying that this is the Hanbali Madhab that we are saying that we all follow this because Ahmad bin Hanbal just said it and we trust him. We trust him, but not when it comes to Aqidah. Following someone doesn't give you certainty about what you are saying. It's just taqleed will lead to dhann, as we mentioned before. طيب, Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, when it comes to fiqh, he is one of the most important scholars in the Hanbali Madhab. After Ahmad ibn Hanbal, the most important scholar, and this is something that all the Hanabila agree on, the most important man after Ahmad ibn Hanbal is Muwaffaq al-Din ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi, the author of Al-Mughni wal-Muqni' wal-Kafi wa Umdat al-Fiqh and other books in the Hanbali Madhab and in the Hanbali Aqidah. Then you have Majd al-Din ibn Taymiyyah, the grandfather of Ibn Taymiyyah, the man. We said Ahmad ibn Abd al-Halim ibn Abd al-Salam. This is Abd al-Salam, and he is the most like the second man in the madhab after Ibn Qudama. Then to Al-Mardawi and other scholars in the madhab. In the third position comes Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali and Ibn Taymiyyah. Both are on the same level. Or you can say Ibn Rajab then Ibn Taymiyyah. Two ways. Yani you consider Ibn Taymiyyah the fourth or the third. The third with Ibn Rajab or the fourth after Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali. And Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali of course came after Ibn Taymiyyah. This is what you find in the white Hanbali books. Like for example Al-Insaf. In the introduction to Al-Insaf, you will find how you should go through the Hanbali books in order for you or anyone to know the relied upon position of the madhab, to know the ijtihad in the madhab that was done by the scholars of the madhab, to know the relied upon position. So he will put the men in order, and this is the order that I mentioned is the order that most of the Hanabila after Al-Mardawi and even before Al-Mardawi, like 100 or 200 years before Al-Mardawi, all the Hanabila were following this. You will find in the relied upon books in the Hanbali Madhab like Al-Iqna' and Sharh al-Muntaha wa Kashaf al-Qina' Sharh al-Iqna'. You'll find in these books statements in the Hanbali Madhab. These statements were given only by Ibn Taymiyyah, and they are the relied upon position of the Madhab. Because, accept it or not, Ibn Taymiyyah was Hanbali. And giving fatwa that doesn't agree with the Hanbali Madhab, this was a stage of his life, and they were not what he wrote in his books. In his books you find Sharh Umdat al-Fiqh. Sharh Umdat al-Fiqh, this is a book that explains the book of Muwaffaq al-Din ibn Qudama, Umdat al-Fiqh. In fiqh you find another book, but it's not, and you cannot find it now. In our time it's like lost. Sharh al-Muharrar. Al-Muharrar is a book authored by Majd al-Din ibn Taymiyyah, the grandfather of Ibn Taymiyyah, and he explained this book in Sharh al-Muharrar. the same thing that he did when it to Ibn Qudama's book عمدة الفقه, شرح عمدة الفقه. You might go on YouTube and you'll find here in Egypt shuyukh who had very important positions here in Egypt. You might find them saying, okay, you know what, Ibn Taymiyyah was a genius, but he didn't have shuyukh, and not having shuyukh led to him saying all what he said, doing all what he had done, and all this is the reason why he fell in all the mistakes that he had made. First of all, if we are talking about the Hanbali Madhab, this is not applicable. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah took the Madhab from the most two important branches in the Madhab, from Ibn Qudama and his grandfather. He didn't take the Madhab from them directly. He took the Madhab from his father, the son of his grandfather, Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah, Abdul Halim. So his isnad will go like this: his father, then Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah. And he took the madhab from another branch, the branch of Ibn Qudama, from Ibn Abi Umar, Ibn Abi Umar ibn Qudama. Ibn Qudama is the uncle, Am Ibn Abi Umar ibn Qudama, and he's a student. So Ibn Taymiyyah took the madhab from the student of Ibn Qudama, or one of the most important students of Ibn Qudama, and from his father, the student of his grandfather, Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah. And he doesn't have shuyukh. So this is unfortunately, either this person didn't know, so ignorance led to this, not knowing the man you are talking about, or it's a lie, and this is worse. So he has shuyukh, yes, he has shuyukh. Of course he has shuyukh, and more shuyukh than the ones I mentioned. I mentioned his shuyukh in the Hanbali Madhab only. He has he got the ilm of the Hanbali Madhab from the most important branches of the Madhab, from Ibn Qudama and Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah. And that's why, so this is a very nice thing, that he explained the book of Ibn Qudama and the book of Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah, his grandfather. Ibn Taymiyyah, when it comes to hadith, he is very important. Now, someone might think, okay, now we are talking about fiqh. We were talking about fiqh. What does hadith has anything to do with Ibn Taymiyyah as a faqih, or as a person who contributed to the Hanbali fiqh, with Hanbali Madhab? You cannot become a Hanbali unless you become a muhaddis. You cannot become a Hanbali unless you become very good at hadith. If you're not good at hadith, you are not Hanbali. You are just wasting our time. You are just wasting your time and our time. You are either very good at hadith, or you are having a peer or a colleague who is helping you 100% when it comes to hadith. Like you live next door and you have a muhaddis next to you, and he's helping you in everything, because you will be relying on him every day if you are really sincere to al-ilm. So you cannot become a Hanbali unless you become a muhaddis. What is the rank of Ibn Taymiyyah as a muhaddis? They said, كل حديث لا يعرفه ابن تيمية فليس بحديث. Any hadith, or all the ahadith that Ibn Taymiyyah didn't know, not a hadith. Yani not knowing this statement, when Ibn Taymiyyah doesn't know a statement, this means that this is fabricated, this is not a hadith, or this is munkar or batil. It's not a hadith, or it's very, very weak, that you cannot rely on it by all means. So this is Ibn Taymiyyah as a muhaddith. So this combination, guess what? He will be the most important man after Ibn Qudama and after his grandfather, and maybe on the same level with Ibn Rajab. This is something that we will study in the in the introduction to Al-Insaf. Look at this. Some people might say, okay, the Hanbali Madhab that you have and the books of the late phase scholars of the Hanbali Madhab, they do not really agree with the books of earlier scholars. And you will find someone like Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab claiming that anything that you find in the books of Al-Mutaakhirin, the books of the late phase of the Hanbali Madhab, these books disagree, clearly disagree with what Ahmad bin Hanbal said. خلافا لنص أحمد هكذا. طبعا these claims are easily refuted by Al-Hanabila, and sometimes they are not even heard. We do not even we do not even exert the effort of refuting such nonsense. If Ibn Qudama agrees with Majd Ibn Taymiyyah, this is the madhab. طبعا there is a stage before this when the author of Al-Furu' gives you in a clear statement or in a clear way, it doesn't have to be a statement, in a clear way, the position that was agreed upon by the majority of the Hanabila in history. This is easy, and this is these are very few masail, these are very few issues in which you have such an agreement. طيب, what about the rest? The rest, if Ibn Qudama agrees with Ibn Taymiyyah as a grandfather, then this is the madhab. If someone disagrees with the other, then he might disagree with him in one opinion, okay? Disagreement in one opinion in one book, and the other book agrees with him. So, Ibn Qudama has two positions, permissible and haram. Majd Ibn Taymiyyah has one position, haram. This means that Ibn Qudama agreed with Majd Ibn Taymiyyah on the position which says haram, but he disagrees in the position that says permissible. So we will take the position on which they both agreed. What if we have only one position? So Ibn Qudama is saying permissible, Majd Ibn Taymiyyah is saying haram. You will go to Ibn Taymiyyah, and the position that he chose will be the Hanbali Madhab. Same thing is done with Ibn Rajab. What Ibn Rajab chose will be the Hanbali Madhab. There is only a big difference between Ibn Rajab and Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Rajab didn't books in fiqh at all. Didn't author any books of fiqh. But Ibn Taymiyyah did. Authored two books, the explanation of Al-Muharrar wa Sharh Umdat al-Fiqh. So Ibn Taymiyyah's practice was more when it comes to fiqh. That's why we rely a lot on him, and you will find in Al-Iqna'. Al-Iqna' is one of the most important books. What is the relied upon position? What you find in Al-Iqna' wal-Muntaha. طبعا what I'm explaining, when Muwaffaq agrees with Majd Ibn Taymiyyah, this is something that happened before Al-Iqna' wal-Muntaha. This is how Al-Iqna' wal-Muntaha were authored. When they applied this, what I'm saying. So we have parts of Sharh Umdat al-Fiqh that Ibn Taymiyyah authored. This book gives you some or all the narrations and the opinions in the Hanbali Madhab. It looks like Al-Insaf. Al-Insaf gathered all the opinions in the Hanbali Madhab and put it in one book so that you revise them easily, excluding the weak ones that weak, they should not be claimed as Ahmad's opinions or as Hanbali opinions. So Ibn Taymiyyah was doing the same thing, and if the complete version of the book reached us, it would have been the greatest book of the Hanbali Madhab when it comes to this purpose, collecting all the narrations of the Hanbali Madhab. One of the remarkable books of Usul al-Fiqh in the Hanbali Madhab was authored by Ibn Taymiyyah, his father and his grandfather. The three of them wrote in the book. So the book of their contribution was gathered in one book, and it's called Al-Musawwada. Al-Musawwada is one of the most important books in Usul al-Fiqh in general, if you want to say. In Usul al-Fiqh in general, whether Hanbali or not. So we are not talking about a man who is just an ignorant, who doesn't know anything, a man who did some bid'ah and he was not, he doesn't have any influence on the Muslims or on the Hanabila. We are not talking about a man who was neglected in the of Muslim scholars. That's why if you are Hanbali, you can never ignore Ibn Taymiyyah's position. You cannot consider Ibn Taymiyyah Jahil, who didn't know anything, and he was just a bad person who tried to revive some innovations. This is not correct. And actually you have to respect Shaykh Yusuf as long as you are Hanbali. So if you say I'm Hanbali, you have to respect him, because whenever we say Al-Shaykh, whenever you say Al-Shaykh, you read in the book وقال الشيخ so and so. قال الشيخ, who is Al-Shaykh? Ibn Taymiyyah. According to the vast majority of the scholars of the late phase of the Hanbali Madhab, you will find that Al-Shaykh is Ibn Taymiyyah. Earlier than this, it was Ibn Qudama. This doesn't mean that Ibn Taymiyyah is more important than Ibn Qudama. Ibn Qudama is, I think Ibn Taymiyyah himself believes that Ibn Qudama is more important. This is his contribution to fiqh and to usul al-fiqh. When it comes to aqidah, things are different. Ibn Taymiyyah, and when it comes to fiqh as well, not all the opinions that you find and they are signed by Ibn Taymiyyah, not all of these opinions are Hanbali opinions. Some of them are not. Ibn Taymiyyah practiced al-ijtihad at some point in his life, and his ijtihad was not restricted to the Hanbali Madhab, unfortunately. But when he authored books according to the Hanbali Madhab. But when he practiced al-ijtihad, he considered himself a mujtahid who can take the rulings directly from the Sunnah. He doesn't need to follow any imam. And according to the Hanabila, our ashab or the scholars of the Hanbali Madhab, they have two opinions: whether he was mujtahid, an absolute mujtahid who can just take the rulings from the Quran or Sunnah, or he was mujtahid in the madhab only. This means that both parties agree on Ibn Taymiyyah being mujtahid in the madhab at least. And most probably Ibn Taymiyyah was mujtahid. He could take the rulings directly, and he could have the rulings directly and independently from the Quran or Sunnah. This is what I think, at least. When it comes to Aqidah, things are different. Ibn Taymiyyah didn't like the Hanbali approach in Aqidah, and he didn't like the Ash'ari approach either, and he didn't like anyone's approach to Aqidah except for himself and what he claimed to be Aqidat al-Salaf. You have to understand a very important thing. When you say this is Aqidat al-Salaf, you cannot just quote Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah said a lot more things than Salaf. Ibn Taymiyyah practiced the ilm al-kalam, and the Salaf never practiced the ilm al-kalam. Ibn Taymiyyah used the ilm al-kalam a lot, even if he was using it to refute the aqa'id that he didn't like or that he didn't find uh, يعني, that he didn't agree on, even if he did so just to refute them, he practiced the ilm al-kalam. Ilm al-kalam is not anything that the Salaf approached at all. When it comes to Aqidah, Ibn Taymiyyah's Aqidah cannot just equal Hanbali Aqidah. This is not correct. We have a lot of things that show you this, other than some praises, general praise that you might see in the Hanbali books. You'll find that the Hanabila, when they write their Aqidah, they quote Ibn Taymiyyah sometimes, and they sometimes ignore his positions. Someone might say, oh, because he doesn't have he doesn't have any positions there when it comes to this issue in Aqidah or that issue in Aqidah. This might be said in fiqh. I can accept this from you in fiqh. In fiqh, he didn't mention Ibn Taymiyyah. What Ibn Taymiyyah is saying in fiqh doesn't necessarily equal or agree with what you find in the relied upon position of the Hanbali Madhab. But why? Because sometimes he doesn't have anything to say. He didn't mention this mas'ala. We do not have his opinions in this mas'ala when it comes to his Hanbali approach to fiqh, not his independent ijtihad. When it comes to Aqidah, he discussed all the issues of Aqidah. He was trying to refute every issue of Aqidah that the Ash'ari tackled. Yet sometimes Al-Hanabila will just ignore him, ignore his positions when it comes to Al-Aqidah. Athari approach, they do not get into Ilm al-Kalam a lot unless it's really necessary. Ibn Taymiyyah's contribution is full of Ilm al-Kalam. Sometimes it's not even necessary. That's why you will have some statements from Al-Dhahabi in a letter that he sent to Ibn Taymiyyah, stating a fact. And the Zahabi should be Salafi, or should be Athari. Whenever I say Salafi, I do not mean contemporary Salafism. This is a whole different story. So Ibn Zahabi was Athari, and he didn't like Ibn Taymiyyah's approach because he's depending a lot on Ilm al-Kalam. For those who know Arabic, things like حوادث لا أول لها. Where in Kalam al-Salaf, where in the statements of the Salaf you can find this? Even if you do not, even if you're not convinced with what I'm saying, Ibn Taymiyyah's books are difficult. Why? Why Ibn Taymiyyah's books are difficult, and why doesn't we find the same difficulty in the books of the Salaf? If you're not convinced with what I'm saying, I brought it to you in a very simple way. If you find difficulty in his books, and you do not find the books of the Salaf difficult, basically because he was using a difficult method to destroy another, which is Ilm al-Kalam. We are not discussing Ibn Taymiyyah's Aqidah. We are not discussing the issues of Aqidah Aslan, unless you ask me questions that I can answer today, because the time might not allow me to answer all deep questions in Aqidah. It might, this requires some durus. You might need to listen to me explaining an issue for a couple of hours. We do not have all this time now. To conclude, the conclusion can be taken from what Safarini did in his explanation on the poem that he wrote to support or to mention عقيدة أهل السنة الأثرية الحنابلة. لوامع الأنوار. This is the explanation called لوامع الأنوار. In لوامع الأنوار you'll find that sometimes he brings Ibn Taymiyyah and sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he takes from Ibn Taymiyyah what supports the madhab, and sometimes he ignores Ibn Taymiyyah. So this, when you ignore someone's positions, it's because you are it's because you are introducing something different from what he has said, or from the positions that he mentioned in his books. Yani you quote him sometimes, ignore him sometimes, you do not always quote him. At least you need to understand, even if you are following Ibn Taymiyyah all the way, you need to understand that the Hanbali Aqidah is different, and the Aqidah of the Hanabila are different. From the time of Ahmad ibn Hanbal to the time of me, or my shuyukh. That's why sometimes Ibn Taymiyyah represents the Hanbali Madhab in fiqh, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he represents the Hanbali Madhab in Aqidah, but less times actually, and a lot of times he doesn't represent the Hanbali Madhab in Aqidah, regardless of who is correct and who is not, who is following the right thing and who is just a deviant. This is not our topic today. I'm not discussing the Aqidah of Ibn Taymiyyah or his mistakes. I'm just saying that sometimes Ibn Taymiyyah's approach is not Athari, is not Salafi. He's using Ilm al-Kalam. Is this wrong? Not necessarily. Maybe the results are wrong. The method itself, I cannot say it's wrong, because if you are refuting the Aqidah of the innovators, you will need to use Ilm al-Kalam, definitely. But claiming that this is the Athari and the Salafi Aqidah and this is the Aqidah of the Salaf, no. This should not be said. والله المستعان والله تعالى أعلى وأعلم وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. If you have any questions, تفضلوا. I already got a couple of questions that I will try to answer now. Inshallah, send your questions, inshallah. And if I do not read your questions now, I have, for example, 2 questions. And from Alexander, and I cannot, AVT, I cannot pronounce the last name, Alexander something. And Ahmed says, I will answer these questions. If you can, this means that I haven't received your question. I do not ignore anyone, wallahi. If I do not answer a question, I will tell you, Ya Fulan, I cannot answer your question now, or I don't know, or I will not answer your question. I will have to talk about this in a different session. لو ممكن, this is in Arabic. كتب السلفية الأسهل من كتب شيخ الإسلام. إن كنت تقصد كتبا في عقائد الحنابلة أثريون، لكن لا بمعنى السلفية المعاصرة، وأتمنى أن تفهمني جيدا، فأنا أرشح كتب شيخ الإسلام موفق الدين ابن قدامة كلمعته الاعتقادي مثلا، وكتب كتب ابن قدامة كتب ابن قدامة كلها، وأيضا ما كتبه الحنابلة المتأخرون كابن بلبان والشيخ عبد الباقي المواهبي والسفاريني وابن قائد النجدي، وكل هؤلاء يعني يعلمونك العقيدة السلفية الأثرية بصورة أسهل من شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية، على رأسهم موفق الدين ابن قدامة. طيب, the question was books that are easier than the books of Ibn Taymiyyah, and giving you the Salafi or the true Salafi or the Athari Aqidah of Al Hanabila. I said all books of Ibn Qudama, all the books of the late phase scholars in the Hanbali Madhab, like the books of Ibn Balban, the books of like Qala'id al-Iqyan or Al-Ayn wal-Athar, or the books of Al-Safarini, whether his explanation on Ha'iyyat ibn Abi Dawood, أو شرحه, his explanation on the poem that he authored or that he wrote in Hanbali Aqidah. Thank you, Ustaz. How do we respond to people like Shaykh Sa'id Foda? Shaykh Sa'id Foda doesn't only call Ibn Taymiyyah a deviant, he calls Ibn Qudama a deviant, he calls, not a deviant, mujassim, this is much worse. He insults all the Hanabila. And if you think that all of them, like every individual in the Hanbali Madhab, no. But he talks about Al-Qadi Abu Ya'la, he talks about Ibn Qudama, Shaykh Madhab Al Hanabila, and he talks about Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah is not mujassim. Ibn Taymiyyah is not mujassim. I can defend Ibn Taymiyyah according to the rules of ilm. He is not mujassim. Al-mujassim, according to the Hanbali, the one who claims that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a body, or he has bodily or the attributes of a body, is kafir according to the Hanbali Madhab. What he is doing is kufr, and this person is kafir if he claims so. As long as he is claiming this as a matter of ijtihad, like this is his ijtihad, this is his opinion, he's not following anyone. How do you cannot respond to Shaykh Sa'id Fouda with all due respect to him and to his efforts in defending the Aqidah of Ahl Sunnah. Shaykh Sa'id has to have a different approach in order for us to make him listen or to answer his objections to the Hanbali Madhab. You cannot address someone like Shaykh Sa'id Fouda as long as he doesn't change his mentality. And I'm talking about his mentality, his approach to ilm. Even our mashayikh, without naming people because this will cause a lot of troubles, even our Ash'ari mashayikh do not like his attitude. His attitude is dangerous. And it's one of two things. He doesn't understand what the Hanabila are saying. Or he understands what the Hanabila are saying, yet he insists on excluding them. Allah al-Musta'an. Ibn Taymiyyah made mistakes. Fatal ones, sometimes fatal ones. When it comes to Aqidah, yes. Sometimes. You can defend him a lot in a lot of issues. Some issues it will be very difficult to defend him. It was claimed that he repented and that he left all what he said. Just a claim. I want to believe this claim, but I cannot be sure that this is what happened. But huwa Shaykh al-Islam, and I think in a lot of the masail in which he made mistakes, he was excused one way or another. ويوم القيامة we will figure out who was correct and who was not. رضي الله عن شيخ الإسلام. My life would be much easier if I just say Ibn Taymiyyah is Mubtada, and people will just come to me, okay, let's see this Hanbali who is saying Ibn Taymiyyah is Mubtada, and I will just benefit a lot from it. So I cannot do this. Ibn Taymiyyah is a very important figure in the Hanbali Madhab, in fiqh, and even in Aqidah. In some masail, he represents the Aqidah of the Salaf. In a lot of masail, he went really far from where the Salaf was. Ya Shaykhana, regarding the position of the ending of Isha. Barakallahu feek, Ya Ahmed al-Shazli. Why is the later madhab say it ends in Fajr and Majd, and Ibn Qudama agreed that it ends at midnight? I think there is something wrong in the question. Let's see, have you said anything else afterwards? No? So, okay. Al-Isha, I will answer. Please, Ya Sheikh Dani, let me know, but I will not be able to get your response immediately. So let me know at some point that I got your question correctly, or ask another question after this if the answer was irrelevant to your question. What I understood from your question, I can answer what I understood from your question as the following. the time of Al-Isha, choice, and the time of necessity. The time of choice, according to the relied upon position, is to the first third of the madhab. This has a hadith in a hadith sahiha that it ends at the first third. There are other hadith, it ends at the middle of the night, not midnight like 12 a.m. No, we do not mean this, of course. But al-ihtiyat is to take into consideration the hadith that says the first third of the night, because this is the certain amount. Yani if you have 1/3 and half, what you are certain that what you have for sure is the 1/3. This is yaqeen. This is the relied upon position of the madhab. Another position in the madhab, actually, it's to the middle of the night. This is the time of a choice. No one, as far as I understand from the Hanbali Madhab, no one claimed that the end of Al-Isha is the middle of the night. No, it's still Fajr. It's a time, but it's a time of necessity. So from the first third, from the end of the first third to the Fajr, to the time Al-Fajr enters, this is the time of necessity. This is the relied upon position. Another position is the middle of the night. And Ibn Qudama had this way of combining the two things. It's like it's recommended to pray it before the first third, but you can pray it until the first half, and it's not a time of necessity, it's a time of choice. But the relied upon position is that that the time of choice ends with the end of the first third of the night. Does the Aqidah of Ibn Abi Zayd al-Qayrawani differ from the books you mentioned? Al-Aqidah of Ibn Abi Zayd al-Qayrawani is explained by al-Asha'ira and and by the shuyukh of al-Asha'ira, usually the Maliki ones. And some of the Salafi try to explain it in a way that suits the contemporary Salafis. They explain it in a way that suits them and that agrees with their madhab. So this is difficult, but in general it doesn't disagree with the books I mentioned. In general. حياك الله شيخنا، ما مدى تطابق منهج السلفية المعاصرة في العقيدة مع منهج ابن تيمية؟ السلفي I will in order to save time, I will just answer this in Arabic. I'm sorry. I will not be able to translate it into English to answer the rest of the questions because there are many and I want to finish them. السلفية المعاصرة ليست فرقة واحدة، يعني السلفية المعاصرة يعني كانوا طرائق قددا، فليسوا فرقة واحدة. منهم من يتبع بعض ما قاله ابن تيمية، منهم من يأخذ بقول ابن تيمية حتى يخالف محمد بن عبد الوهاب أو أتباعه، فإذا خالف محمد بن عبد الوهاب ضربوا بقول ابن تيمية، خلاص ضربوا عليه وتركوه. لكن أكثرهم لا يفهمون ما يقوله ابن تيمية. ابن تيمية صعب جدا. قال بعض مشايخي ابن تيمية عفريت. الرجل يؤسس نظرية جديدة عليها معتقده. هل تظن أن أكثر السلفية الذين يحرمون بالمناسبة النظر في الكتب الكلامية، لكن كتب ابن تيمية عادي ينظرون فيها كلامه، أكثرهم لا يفهمون. لذلك حجتهم نحن سندرس العقيدة الواسطية، وإذا ارتقى الرجل منهم درس العقيدة الفتوى الحموية، كتابان لابن تيمية فقط. وإذا كان متكلما، يعني إذا كان يعتقد نفسه من أهل الكلام فيهم، درس التدمرية أو كتب عليها شيئا، وهذا حصل مؤخرا فقط من بعض الجهلة، يعني ممن يدعون الانتساب لابن تيمية. أما ما يدرسونه السلفية فإيش؟ كتب محمد بن عبد الوهاب، الكتب المعاصرة لابن عثيمين، الكتب المعاصرة للشيخ الفوزان، الكتب المعاصرة لابن باز، ربما كتب حتى الألباني، كتب متقدمة على طريقة الحنابلة، الطريقة السهلة، أصول السنة لإمام أحمد، شرح السنة للبربهاري. أنت ما مدى إذن التوافق؟ يعني أكثر القوم لا يعرفون ما يقوله ابن تيمية. I hope أتمنى أن يكون هذا واضح. Sheikh, some people claim كتاب السنة by Abdullah ibn Ahmad ibn Hanbal can't be attributed to him. What do our scholars say about its authenticity? Our scholars do not really rely on this book, and this is a good claim. The asanid to this book are problematic. The asanid to the book of the son of Ahmad ibn Hanbal are problematic. And whose aqidah is this? The aqidah of Abdullah ibn Ahmad. Yani, do I have to take him into consideration? Yani, when it comes to hadith, you do not take him into consideration. His narrations in al-Musnad, you do not take them into consideration. Why should I take the book that he authored because he is called Fulan, the son of Ahmad, into consideration? Why? And the book has problems, and this is obvious. But that's why you will rarely find people referring to Abdullah unless they are referring to him as a narrator, because he was a good narrator. What about the chains of narrators to the book? They are problematic. That's why we are not sure whether this book is authentic or not. In my opinion, that it's not authentic, but I need to do more research and do more tahqiq of the chains of narrators and a lot of things. But I'm not really interested in this now. I have better things to do so. Was Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah really a Sufi Qadiri Shaykh? Yes, and he wore the thawb or al-khirqa. Al-khirqa is something that you wear when you take the Sufi vow or the Sufi pledge. Something that you wear. Ibn Taymiyyah was Sufi. The Sufi doesn't mean dancing and doing nonsense. This is not Sufi. And the one who narrated this is one of his sincerest students, Ibn Abd al-Hadi, not the one who died 909, another one, an earlier one, the one who authored the book of Hadith. Forgot its name. Later I will mention this. So Ibn Abd al-Hadi, the student of Ibn Taymiyyah, there is Ibn Abd al-Hadi, the student of Ibn Taymiyyah, Hafiz, Muhaddith. This man, was following Ibn Taymiyyah, very sincere to him. I think he was better student than Ibn al-Qayyim. Imagine this. And he mentioned that Ibn Taymiyyah wore the khirqa, or the thawb, the Sufi khirqa. And this goes to Sidi Abdul Qadir al-Jilani. Yes. We are talking about the Sunni Tasawwuf. This is the example of the Sunni Tasawwuf. I have a book with me, authored by a Hanbali. He died in the 8th century, I guess. Was criticizing the Sufiya of that time. He didn't like them, and he was Sufi. He was Sufi, criticizing them, insulting them, accusing them of very dangerous things. So when I say Sufi, do not go to dancing and innovations and stuff like this. What is the topic today? Sorry, just it was Ibn Taymiyyah, his contributions to the Hanbali Madhab in Fiqh and Aqidah, his position in the Hanbali Madhab. What are you talking about? Same thing that I've just mentioned now. Live sessions are funny. Wallahi, I used to see people on YouTube doing the same thing I'm doing now. Like, someone will just come, what are you, who are you, and what are you talking about? Okay? So yeah. Is it possible to mention some of these mistakes in Aqidah attributed to Shaykh al-Islam? It's very difficult, yeah, Shaykh Anwar, because this will need a lot of details, and I will need to explain some kalam concepts in ilm al-kalam. Ibn Taymiyyah was difficult, yeah, Shaykh, wallah. But let's mention an easy thing. Ibn Taymiyyah doesn't approve the Hanbali tafweed, which is that we do not know the meanings of Allah's attributes unless you understand the meaning of the ayah. But the word itself, yad, wajh, these attributes, we do not know their meanings. Ibn Taymiyyah created a whole thing to understand the meanings, as he claims, but he doesn't really understand their meanings, and he never gave their meanings. And sometimes you will find that he is agreeing with the tafweed concept that we have, but he doesn't like the name tafweed. He doesn't like it. And sometimes he will go to very strange positions and then he will refute them. It's very difficult to discuss his aqidah now, ya Shaykh, wallahi. It's very difficult. وأحسن الله إليكم يا مولانا. السلام عليكم مولانا. I hope you are well. Alhamdulillah, barakallahu fik ya Shaykh Ali. I hope you are well too. Mention some points regarding Shaykh al-Islam's usage and reliance on ilm al-kalam. Could you please describe for us his approach to asma wa sifat? I understand it may require an understanding of his own theory of language that he proposed. Apologies for the long question. It's difficult. As I said, it's really difficult. Let's say this. The most important thing that you need to understand in order to read, Ibn Taymiyyah doesn't believe in this division or this categorization, literal meaning versus metaphorical meaning. He doesn't see this. He finds this, no, he doesn't take it even into consideration. But he believes in a very problematic thing. The word was put originally to indicate the common meaning between the things that it refers to. If you do not understand this, it will be difficult to explain it now. I'm really sorry. But I have referred to this in my durus in Lum'at al-I'tiqad, and I'm referring to it in Qala'id al-Iqyan and in Al-Ayn wal-Athar. I apologize if it doesn't suffice you, my answer. Assalamu alaikum. Ya Shaykhuna, was the final position of Imam, I think what was, right? What was the final position of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal on using aqli proofs in defense of the aqaid of Islam, and this is is this the same as kalam? Using the aqli proof, who is this? This is a very good question. Barakallahu fiki. Yes, barakallahu fiki. Using aqli proofs. Aqli proofs are two things. Aqli proofs that you find in the Quran, Ahmad ibn Hanbal would use this. Would use this all the way. Aqli proofs that you find in the Quran. Aqli proofs that you come up with using logic, using theories of the philosophers, using theories of the logicians, or the people of al-ilm al-kalam in general. He never used this. That's why, what was his response to al-Mu'tazila when he was in his mihna? Bring me something from the Quran, bring me something from the statements of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was doing this at the time when they were just arguing with him using aqli proofs. Now, this is his position, this is his final position, this is his earlier positions. It's only one position as far as I understand from what I have read from Imam Ahmad's statements. He is athari, he sticks to Al-Quran wa Sunnah. Imam Ahmad, as I mentioned in some of my drus, might reject a correct concept. Like for example, my utterance is created by Allah. So when I say Ar-Rahman ala al-Arsh istawa, this is Quran. Al-Quran kalamullah. This should be qadim, doesn't have a beginning, and it's not created. Yes, but my utterance is different from the Quran. The action, my action, this is makhluq. أفعال العباد مخلوقة. he wouldn't approve this, and he wouldn't approve this. Let's say so. Let's not get into deep issues that I will need to explain. He wouldn't approve this, although it's a correct thing. Yani if you say it, you're not saying any wrong thing. But it's not the way the Salaf talked. It's not the way Allah يعني تكلم في القرآن. It's not the way the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم تكلم في الحديث. جزاك الله خيرا يا شيخ بويامين، جزاك الله خيرا أيضا. ابن عبد الهادي صاحب الصارم المنكي. Yes, I believe so. Yes, this one, not the one who authored بحر الدم, for instance, and other books. Morning, good morning. Yeah, I cannot pronounce your name. Good morning. أهلا وسهلا. May Allah increase you in fiqh, dear Shaykh. May Allah increase you in fiqh and knowledge in general. Yeah. Xerox. No, Sa'd, Ibn Sa'd. My question revolves around khamr versus alcohol in the Hanbali Madhab. By the way, I have read the questions in the order I have received them. So these are the questions I got. Okay? These are the only questions I got. I'm sorry if some of your questions was not read or answered. I haven't received them. May Allah increase you in fiqh. My question revolves around khamr versus alcohol in the Hanbali Madhab. Do we differentiate between the alcohol in perfumes? Are they allowed to be used? Do we differentiate between 1 to 10% alcohol versus 40%, etc.? Could you explain? Alcohol, if it means khamr, then it's haram and najis. If it refers to another substance from al-khamr, I heard my sheikh, and I'm just giving you what he said. I have no say. Okay? I heard my sheikh saying it's using perfumes is permissible. Is it the safest thing that you do? No. So I always prefer to take the raw material of perfumes without adding any alcohol. But if you use it, I believe it's not haram. I believe here doesn't mean أنا أعتقد. I believe here means I think. Because this is what my sheikh said, my Hanbali sheikh said. So I'm just following his opinion. It should not be problematic according to him. جزاك الله خيرا مول. What is the حكم of توسل and تبرك in the madhab? Okay. Tabarruk is seeking al-barakah. Okay? Let's answer this. Tabarruk is seeking al-barakah. Tabarruk is the difficult part. Give me one moment. I know that pictures do not... There is nothing that we can do about it, right? I can use the other camera. This is al-Mughni anyway. You can figure it out, I guess. This is al-Mughni by Ibn Qudamah. It's the first text written by al-Hanabila or a Hanbali scholar, al-Khiraqi. So this is the explanation of Mukhtasar al-Khiraqi. Page 108 in my edition, this edition, the Dar Alam al-Kutub. Page 108. Page 108 is the introduction of Ibn Qudamah. Not the introduction of Ibn Qudamah. Give me one moment. It's page 4, I'm sorry. It's page 4, but I think I have something else on page 108. Let me see. Okay, page 5. I'm sorry, page 5. You'll find this. ثم رتبت ذلك. I will read in Arabic and I will translate the part I want. ثم رتبت ذلك على شرح مختصر أبي القاسم عمر بن الحسين بن عبد الله الخرقي رحمه الله. So I put my explanation as يعني based on the organization of Al-Khiraqi in his manual مختصر الخرقي لكونه كتابا مباركا نافعا, because it's a blessed book and it's a beneficial one. ومختصرا موجزا جامعا, it's a very beneficial book and it collected a lot of مسائل. مؤلفه إمام كبير, he is a great imam. صالح ذو دين, he is a righteous person. جمع العلم والعمل, يعني فنتبرك بكتابه, فنتبرك بكتابه. I think this is a very clear statement. يعني he found the book authored by Hanbali. Okay, I will seek barakah here. What is your evidence? Nothing from that. يعني of course I do not have. I will be fabricating a hadith if I tell you, okay, the Prophet ﷺ said you seek barakah in Al-Khiraqi, in the book of Al-Khiraqi. You will not find this. Tabarruk is seeking barakah. This should be allowed in all cases. Seeking barakah from anything, from anyone, as long as you believe that this has barakah. Imam Ahmad was asked about the person who might touch the mimbar of the Prophet ﷺ or kiss it or so, as for the sake of barakah. Imam Ahmad's qamis or thawb was given to Imam al-Shafi'i as a gift. You have a lot of things. Al-Hanabila يعني thinking that this thing has barakah is not haram, unless you think that there will be barakah in a nightclub, for instance. يعني of course you are trying to manipulate. خلاص you understand now that this cannot be something that you do. But seeking al-barakah from the things that you believe they have barakah is fine. When it comes to at-tawassul, clear statement by al-Hanabila. At-tawassul, when it comes to the righteous people, is permissible. When it comes to the Prophet ﷺ, it's recommended. This is the relied upon position of the madhab. Tawassul, يعني when you say Allahumma bihaqqi al-Husayn, Allahumma bihaqqi fulan, this is not shirk at all. It's far, it is permissible. And if you say Allahumma bijahi nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, this is recommended. This is the, according to the other position, it's always recommended. Righteous people and the Prophet, it's recommended. But in that case, the recommendation of doing tawassul with the Prophet ﷺ will be more emphasized. And I explained this in Usul al-Fiqh a lot. May Allah grant you goodness, dear Shaykh. Thank you for relying the position of. If I could ask one more question, may Allah وبارك الله فيك ونفعك الله بالعلم ورزقنا وإياك العلم والعمل. What is good internet resource for reliable Hanbali fatwa for modern masail? There's nothing like this. I'm sorry, there's nothing like this. Unfortunately. I can answer some of the contemporary masail, but I usually do not answer most of what I receive because I am afraid. I fear that I will be doing a haram thing. I haven't received any questions other than the ones that I answered. Yes, my Shaykh, in the context of answering the question in fiqh, I meant my Shaykh Muhammad Sayyid Al Hanbali. Yes, Sayyidna Shaykh Muhammad Sayyid Al Hanbali. He is the most knowledgeable person on earth now in the Hanbali Madhab, whether in fiqh, aqidah or usul al-fiqh. At least this is my opinion. If you don't know him, just go and search for his videos and his biography. Some of his shuyukh were mentioned in the biography Sheikh Musa from Netherlands collected for me. So please refer to this one. Well, I am really tired. Khalas, we can stop here if you do not have questions. But please, if you still have questions, I haven't seen them. Anyone whose question wasn't answered didn't show. Khalas, I want you to know this. I'm not ignoring your questions. Unfortunately, I do not have time to type the answers. Live session. Lakin, inshallah, I can meet you again on Friday. We have been doing this for 3 times now, and we always and our schedule is a live session on Tuesday, another on Friday, 10:45 p.m. Cairo time. Please, if you have anything related to the durus, go to the admins of my page. If you have anything related to the attending my durus, just go ask them about all what you need to know, because believe me, I have no idea about what they are doing. I attend at the time of the dars, I give the dars, I leave and complete my day. They are the ones handling every time. They know my schedule better than me. Sometimes they tell me, you have now something, and I'm not even ready for it. So refer to them. I'm not being an arrogant person with you. Hasha lillah. I'm just telling you that it's not something that I handle, because I have a lot of things to handle. So I'm really sorry for this. Inshallah, this topic, the topic of Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, was chosen by from your comments that you left. Or my admins, they usually post a post where they ask you to suggest some topics. I chose this one. I really liked it. It was from, I guess, I'm not sure who was the person who suggested this topic. Same thing for the topic of the last live session. And if you want me to talk about anything, please suggest this. If you find this beneficial, also share it with your peers or the students that you know, the Hanbali students that you know. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Barakallahu fikum. Jazakum Allahu khairan. See you inshallah on Friday. Yes, on Friday inshallah, 10:45 p.m. and a new live session with a new topic inshallah. Jazakum Allahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.